I chose to do an in-depth case study on Coles due to seeing the recent price wars between Coles and Woolworths on the news, as I was interested in finding out the impact that this may have on their consumer markets over time. This is my journey that took place over the past 6 weeks. I used the double diamond approach for this case study on Coles, and the first question I asked myself was, what makes or breaks a shopping experience? Welcome everyone, and thank you all for joining in on Zoom this morning. To start off this case study, I started with the discover phase, and I started with the initial problem. There was a surge in demand for online grocery shopping, and the primary culprits being the COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing price wars with Woolworths, and then went out and did some research. I contacted Richard Pooley to gather insights from Runner, which was another delivery app I used to work for, and then interviewed Coles managers and staff at the Coles Alexandria warehouse and took a closer look at how the Coles operations worked on the inside. Additionally, I also used many other sources to gather all types of data and information. I started to see that Coles online shoppers were saying that a negative customer experience was associated with poor communication and the delivery not meeting the customer's expectations, and that Coles customers are demanding higher quality products and services for less money than ever before. Coles customers are becoming more impatient due to needing instant satisfaction, and the recent price wars between Coles and Woolworths has led to customers wanting more for less, which is not sustainable for the long term. So I decided to do some guerrilla research. I ventured out and followed delivery trucks over 3 days from Coles Alexandria to wherever they went, and also found 5 delivery truck drivers and had one-on-one interviews with them. Here, I found 2 new constraints as well as some very interesting insights that would later greatly impact the later stages of this case study. I found that parking in Sydney was a real nightmare. Many older blocks of apartments don't have lifts, and from a Coles customer point of view, customers wanted the delivery driver to resolve issues relating to damaged items, and from a Coles delivery driver point of view, having a delay with one customer meant delays with other customers. When I felt I had completed enough research, it was time to move onto the define stage in the double diamond process, bringing me to my hypothesis. An online shopper who's had a negative online experience will most likely try a competitor before returning, which led me to the problem statement. An online Coles shopper who's had a delivery issue and feels that they're unable to resolve it quickly will most likely leave a negative review online and shop with Woolworths before shopping again with Coles. And after synthesizing the data I found, 60% of customers said that a negative online experience involved delivery issues. 87% of customers rated Coles with 2 stars or less after having delivery issues, and 93% of Coles customers shopped with Woolworths after a delivery went wrong. To represent all this information, I created 2 user personas, and this is a very high-level view of both of them. Dennis Cole, who's a typical Coles truck driver, and Geordie Anderson, who's a typical Coles online shopper, and then plotted Geordie on the journey map, which pointed out her interactions with Dennis and Coles along the way. Most importantly, the journey map highlighted the actions that led to Geordie leaving a negative online review. For example, when Geordie received broken items on delivery and not believing that the truck driver couldn't do anything about it, as well as the reasons Dennis, the truck driver, wanted to spend the minimum amount of time delivering groceries, which affected the quality of his delivery. For example, being late for the next delivery and wanting to get home on time. After the journey map was complete, A how might we statement was created to spark some direction into what needed to be resolved in order for Coles to provide a better shopping experience for Geordie. So here is the how might we statement. How might we resolve delivery issues quickly so that Geordie does not feel the need to leave a negative review and shop at Woolworths before shopping again with Coles? Then I needed to develop an idea or set of ideas for Geordie to solve for issues along the journey. So I organised an ideation session with all of these lovely people. These people were a mix of online Coles shoppers and current and previous Coles truck drivers, and over 2 hours, the team of 12 brainstormed 96 ideas through a Crazy 8 session to form one super idea. Then, a most viable product matrix map was used to discern which ideas could be implemented by Coles within 2 weeks, and that was also high value to the customer using a voting system. Next, user flows were created from the most viable products matrix map, and the following user flows stood out as being the most feasible for Coles to implement within a 2-week timeframe. This was when Geordie had a bad experience with Woolworths and is now trying the experience with Coles again, just after Geordie purchased her items and where Geordie is able to communicate her issue should a delivery go wrong. After the user flows were drawn up, I moved on to the deliver phase for this case study. Dendrograms were then used to find out the best way to categorize food items. This involved a card sorting workshop where 20 participants sorted out food items. It was interesting to see how similar the categories were to the aisles within Coles. Then it was time to test the user flows. Low fidelity testing focused on the layout and the design of icons, and 4 out of 5 Geordies said that smaller and more iconic iconography was better. While testing early mid-fi screens, 7 out of 7 Geordies concluded that the triangular icon meant warning and the glass icon meant fragile. And during late mid-fidelity testing, 8 out of 9 Geordies agreed that having a toggle switch was simpler than a drop-down menu. And here are what some of the screens look like at this stage in the testing process. Moving on to high fidelity testing, 5 out of 6 Geordies concluded that a red button is more noticeable than a dark or black button. And here are what some of the screens look like at this stage in user testing of high fidelity. And here are the results. 96% of Geordies said that this flow would stop them from leaving a negative online review. 40% of Geordies said that this flow would stop them from leaving a negative online review. And 50% of Geordies said that this flow would stop them from leaving a negative online review. And then, when Coles truck drivers tested the 3 user flows, 60% said that being able to diffuse the Coles customers' frustration would make them feel better in confrontational situations with customers. And here's the effect those results had on Journey's future state journey map. Now, the next steps from here is to present this research and findings to Coles, receive constructive feedback from Coles, implement this prototype in pure CSS and HTML, and maybe some JavaScript and PHP to reignite my coding skills. And lastly, save the dendrogram research for a starting point when prototyping the next phase within the online shopping app of the project. So thank you all for tuning in and listening to my case study. And now I will open up the floor to any questions that you may have. Thank you.